Hey everyone, it's 3 o'clock and it's Tuesday. That means it's Tech Tuesday. Today I'm going to be talking about OneWeb, a new, well, actually they've been in business for a little bit, a satellite provider out of the UK that would be competing with some other satellite providers in some areas. And we'll be right back to look at that. Thanks for joining me, Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So I've been talking about satellite technology for a while because it's something, Starlink from SpaceX has been launched for quite a while. They've been in business. I talked just a few weeks ago about Project Kuiper, which is Amazon's offering. Not yet launched any satellites, unless maybe one or two test things, but primarily they've been working on their consumer terminals. So I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. They've got their three terminals that they showed, different sizes, like a 10-inch one, for kind of moving around a little bit. And then they've got one that you might put in your house, and they've got a bigger one for industrial kinds of things. So they're getting ready to launch. So, the question is, how many satellite providers can the world sustain as far as, having these companies competing with each other? OneWeb's going to be a little bit different, but still they're in this space. So it's something that needs to be considered. I've thought about this, and satellite generally is going to be something that's going to be useful for a rural area, right? Because, people, if they have fiber or cable or something like that, they're not going to go out and get a satellite service. They're going to tend to be more expensive. There's just no reason to do that. So it's really going to be applied to rural areas as far as home broadband, residential broadband, and maybe small businesses in those areas. So I think about a rural area, and, if you had a rural area with not too many customers, that would be like three fiber providers coming in all at the same time, trying to get that business. So, but then again, that would be a town versus all of the rural areas throughout the world. So that's why there seems to be a market for this. Certainly, Starlink as of December, I think they said they have over 1 million customers, over 1 million subscribers, active subscribers that they've signed up, mostly home residential kinds of users. OneWeb's going to be a little bit different, as we'll talk about here, but I did want to show a press release that they just just did here. I actually watched this launch the other day live. I happened to see that it was coming on, so I actually watched it. So you see here a successful launch of 36 OneWeb satellites with the Indian Space Organization there, marks key milestone to enable global connectivity. OneWeb, the low Earth orbit satellite communications company, today confirmed the successful deployment and contact with 36 satellites launched by New Space India Limited. Liftoff took place Sunday, 26th. So that was this Sunday, March 26th at 9 a.m. local time. I actually watched at 11:30 p.m. local time. That sounds a little weird because India, they span two meridians. It's a fairly good sized country. They span two meridians, and they just decided New Delhi was kind of in the middle of them. So they said, well, let's just make everything particular time, and it's on 30 minutes. Versus us that are on an hour, so that's a little bit weird. So it was 11:30 p.m. where I was watching. It was 9 in the morning where they were. OneWeb satellite separated successfully from the rocket. Oh, and by the way, China has 5 time zones. So while that's hard enough, China has 5 time zones, but only uses 1 time. So think about that. OneWeb satellites separated successfully from the rocket and were dispensed in 9 phases over a period of an hour and 14 minutes with signal acquisition on all 36 satellites confirmed. So they get those satellites up, and the way they do it is they get them up to about 400 miles. And then it takes another couple of months to get them where they really want them, the height that they want them, which is 725 miles. And that's still low Earth orbit satellites. Those are almost, not quite, but almost twice what Starlink is and what Amazon's going to be. Starlink sits at around 340 miles. So, actually, that is twice, yeah. So, or is it 430? 4. I have those numbers mixed up. Actually, it's 430, I think. So Starlink sits around 430 miles, so lower Earth orbit than this, but this is still low Earth orbit. This is OneWeb's 18th launch. It's the 3rd this year, bringing the total of OneWeb's constellation to 618 satellites. You compare that to what Starlink has. They've got about 3,600, if I remember. And they are wanting to put up more. In fact, Starlink's saying they want to get up to 12,000. I think they've got approval for maybe 12,000 from the FCC. And they are talking about 30,000 to 42,000 satellites. OneWeb is not talking about nearly that many. They're pretty much where they want to be at this point. And one reason for that is because they're higher. So they are, again, at 725 miles versus maybe 430 miles. So you need fewer satellites. Their satellites are smaller. They're like the size of a washing machine compared to the older satellites of Starlink, which I think are like the size of a small car, and then getting even bigger on their second generation satellites that they're using. So their satellites are much bigger. But one thing that OneWeb's not looking to do is provide broadband directly to consumers. It looks like that's not right now in their marketing plan. We can see if that changes, but that may be determining how many satellites they have up there as well. It says, thanks to today's successful launch, the constellation is in place to soon deliver global services. By the year end, OneWeb will be ready to roll out global coverage, enhancing its existing connectivity solutions that are already live in regions north of 50 degrees latitude as it brings new areas online by partnering with leading providers. So right now, everything north of 50 degrees latitude is what they've been providing service. That's hitting Alaska, Canada, Greenland, the UK, and then parts of Northern Europe that they can hit now. But what they're trying to do is get, these were the number of satellites that they needed to be able to get global access. So they're really there on what they need. They're planning 648 satellites to get a little bit more cushion. But they've got pretty much the satellites that they need up there. They still have a few ground stations that they've got to get operational. This mission marks OneWeb's second satellite deployment from India, highlighting the strong partnership with NSIL and ISRO. Again, that's the Indian Space Research Organization. And OneWeb's commitment to provide connectivity across the length and breadth of India. Once activated, OneWeb's coverage solutions will bring secured connectivity to enterprises, towns, villages, municipalities, and schools, including the most remote areas across the country. They may be doing more of a retail play through really wholesale. That's what they're looking at doing. So not selling directly to consumers. So in the case of India, so OneWeb, they were having financial problems. So they actually went bankrupt and they got a big infusion of cash, about $1 billion from the UK. So the UK actually owns 20% of them. And then from Bharti Global, which is a telecom conglomerate in India. So I believe Bharti Global will be one of their customers, and they will be providing this service, the satellite service, to consumers. So even though OneWeb won't be providing it necessarily directly to consumers like Starlink is, and probably like Amazon is going to do, they will have telecom partners that they'll be working with for various things, including providing service in these rural areas in India. Let's see if there's anything else in here. That's pretty much just some statements from folks here. So if you go to OneWeb's site, and by the way, I've linked to this press release in here. I've linked to OneWeb's website, also to a video I'm going to show you. And in fact, I'll show you that now. I actually linked to the whole video, but I thought you might be interested in watching the launch. So again, I just happen to be watching. So this is just the actual launch part. There's, an hour or more that you can watch of the preparation and the launch, and then have, as it's up in space and those kinds of things. But I always think this is the most interesting and fun part, is looking at the actual takeoff, right? Because lots of fire, but it's a pretty cool looking rocket and launch system there. You'll see the last second, some things close, and this little bird right there that's flying off is going to have a big surprise right here if it survives this. So everything, goes off smoothly in this launch.
Here we have a majestic liftoff.
I can't understand everything that's going on because some of it's not in English, but some is.
जी हाँ, सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन LVM-3M3 प्रमोचन यान का आकाश में गर्जना करता हुआ यह सबसे भारी रॉकेट है इसरो का.
First stage performance normal.
Here from the mission control center, we can feel the vibrations
So
of the
very
launch.
nice launch there. Everything seemed to go well. And as it mentioned, they've done their last two launches from India. One of the reasons they had to do that was because they were using the Russian Soyuz program, but because of the war in the Ukraine, they had to pull back from that. So they had they've had two launches with India. And actually, back in March, they were launched by SpaceX. So SpaceX, quasi-competitor, because SpaceX owns Starlink, but SpaceX will launch anybody's satellites. SpaceX actually launched, I think, 40 or so satellites back in early March. So, they're making use of various launch platforms there. So again, there's a link to the OneWeb site, and you can see here on Global Solutions really what they're going after. So you see here enterprise expansion. So businesses, maybe businesses that span large territories, can use the service maybe to connect up expansive networks, mobile backhaul, again, telecom kinds of solutions, disaster recovery, kind of like we've seen, Starlink has done some things there. Community broadband, and they're talking about, similar to what I think they're doing through the telecom in India, is getting, these communities that need broadband access, where maybe somebody can just in the community get access to broadband wherever they are. Ground, sea, and air for government, and a lot of that's going to be obviously military kinds of applications. You see maritime here, merchant shipping, offshore energy, oil platforms, leisure and yachting, so cruise ships, ferries, fishing. Then you've got commercial aviation and business aviation. You got land mobility. You can see the various things that they can do. Agriculture. You got fields and equipment, those kinds of things that can be connected. Mining, transportation. So those are kinds of that's their niche. So while they are a competitor to Starlink, again, because they'll have telecom partners that they're going to be working with doing residential and business broadband. They will also be competing with Starlink, who wants to do some of these same things. Starlink, just because they're doing residential broadband, doesn't mean that they're going to not be doing these kinds of things as well. So they'll be competing with Starlink there. They have on their site, so I linked to this, there's a way you can track their satellites, which is really cool. It's an interactive satellite tracking thing. So if you go down here and you click on view from space, I just had already done that, so I made sure everything was working. So that will pull up this. I'm going to go ahead and make things a little bigger here, and then make that bigger? Maybe not. And then I guess I'll go ahead and make it full screen, make it as big as I can. So right now, what we're looking at is down here, you see this is at 10 times, and I'm not playing it yet right now. I paused it, so I'm going to hit play. So right now, as you watch this moving, these satellites that you see moving around are about 10 times, I think, the speed they're supposed to be, and you can see what's going on here over to in this box. I can zoom in on this right now, just scrolling with my mouse. I can turn things around. So right now, what we're looking at is what is that? This is Gaithersburg, Maryland. So that's one of their ground stations. So they have a few of their ground stations that they show on here. And they actually use this. What they said was they use this for partners to actually help in their development of what it's like to work with their real satellites. So this is real-time stuff. I can click on this clock right here and I could bring it to real time. Right now, I had it paused. I'm not going to do that right now. But again, you can zoom around. I can move the globe around. It's kind of cool. So, we're in daylight here, but if I scroll in this direction, I get to where I've got nighttime, and you can see, I don't know if this is a actual live satellite image that they're projecting on here. It's probably not. It's probably just a satellite image of what you normally would expect. So you can see, your areas that are lit up more where you get your cities. So, you got the Arabian Peninsula here. You've got Europe up here, Italy, Spain, etc. Then you've got right here, you've got Egypt and Cairo, and you've got lights along, I guess, the Nile there. And then you've got India. Again, that's going to be, I think, a big market for them in some rural areas since they are partnered with that telecom company. They also partnered with, they've also done deals with, in Australia with Telstra, and then Orange in France, which used to be, I think, France Telecom. So I was reading that they've got dozens of customers. So when you hear Starlink's got 1 million customers, you're like, wow, they've got dozens of customers. But again, one of those customers, or two of those customers, Telstra and Orange, those are two big telecoms. And then again, Bharti Global in India. So we're not talking about individual residential customers. And they could have other, enterprise customers, military or global government kinds of customers. So you can see the satellites is, kind of moving here. And I can speed these up a little bit just by dragging this over here and speed these up a shade there. I think that should be going faster. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So they're speeding up. Again, I can, you can see how they are positioned around the globe. I noticed earlier, should still be there. I can see, I don't know where they are in this picture right now, but I noticed there were some satellites that were really clustered together. And I was wondering, because this is supposed to be real time where the satellites are, not completely real time. I'll go ahead and make it real time. Why not? I'm going to hit the clock here, make sure I don't mess that up. So now this is real time with where their satellites are. And again, I can go ahead and I should be able to uncheck that, and I should be able to speed this up now. There we go. So this is real time with where their satellites are. I'm going further now in the future faster. So it was real time there for a second. And I could go back to real time at any time and see exactly where they are. And then the time, it would tick much more slowly because, what fun is that, right? So again, I'm looking at right here at the ground station, Gaithersburg, Maryland. I'll go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit. And you can see what it's showing me is it's showing me how these satellites are being tracked. And you've got the ground station as the satellite comes in to view, it hits that satellite. And then this one here is the next one that comes in. And it's also, as it's, this ground station is also keeping track of a wider area. You can see all the ones that it's tracking. I can turn that on and off over here. There's the little lines here. So if I click that off, then those other radiant lines are gone. And I'm just looking now at that one satellite that it's hitting, but I can turn those back on just by clicking that. If I scroll, this is interesting. If I scroll up to the top of the globe here, you get another look of the satellites and how they're moving. And it looks as you're up here at the top, at the North Pole, like they're maybe circling around, but it's really, it's an optical illusion because what I've got is, I've got somewhat parallel lines as they're crossing the equator, these longitude lines, and these satellites are somewhat parallel as they're crossing the equator, but, on a sphere, non-Euclidean geometry, two parallel lines are going to cross. So you're seeing these lines coming this way and crossing, and it looks like they are possibly like circling around. But if you actually track a satellite, you'll see that they're all going in pretty much straight lines. I think the way, when I was looking at it, when I was tracking a satellite, I'll go and click one. Let's track a satellite, or click on just one. Actually, I'm gonna have to pause this thing to do that, I think. So if you click one, boom, there you go. So there's a satellite right there, and you can see its track. I'll go ahead and start it again. So you can see the track of that satellite as it goes. It's this one. I think it's that one right there. That's the track. I can zoom in on that a little bit. Right there. It's that satellite right there. And I'll come around. And if you look at the tracks, they are almost spiraling around the Earth. So I don't think they stay in the same orbit the whole time. At least I saw that earlier when I was looking at it. I went around the back of the globe and I could see, let's see here if I can tell from this side. Oh, there's that. Yeah, so you see how it's kind of spiraling. Oops, I just lost it. But you could see how it was spiraling around the globe. And I just saw my line of satellites. I'm wondering if this are some of the, could be, I didn't count it, but, again, they launched 36 satellites. And when they do that, again, they start out at 400 miles, and then they need to position themselves up to the 725 miles. So I'm thinking that this is maybe the latest satellites that launched just the other day, Sunday, and that these are, making their way into orbit. And as you click on any of these, see if I can get one. Oop. Yeah, there we go. So as you click on them, you get some information about that satellite over here. So I'm seeing latitude, longitude, altitude, 470 miles. There you go, 471 miles. 472 miles looking down here. So these satellites are making their way up to 725 miles. I did not do that earlier, so it's pretty interesting to do that. And now I'm trying another one here. This one looks like it's in place. So I can get it. I might have to pause it here. Oop. I'm just going to pause it, make it easier. Grab this one. So that one says it's at, this is kilometers. Okay, so this is not yet kilometers, or this is not yet miles. So that is 1,200 kilometers. That's about 725 miles. So those other satellites may be making their way up to 400 miles and maybe a little bit below that. So this one's 1,216.5 kilometers. I think that's the range in kilometers, would be somewhat equivalent to 725 miles. Start that back up again. So again, as I'm tracking that one satellite, if I look at where the track starts and ends, there it is, you can see that they are in a straight line, but they're also like they're spiraling around, so they don't maintain the same orbit the whole time. So how they manage to keep this stuff all straight, I don't know. But again, it's interesting that as they're all converging here, it looks like some of these things are circling around, but it's not. It's just the fact that you've got several coming together, and then you're seeing them diverge in their straight line. It looks like they're making curves, so that's what's going on there. So a few other things, cool things about this map. So now that I'm closer to real time here, I'm going to go back to real time. Just hit that. So that's real time now. So that's right, I was going in the future. So now you can see again, I'm well in light here, and then you've got your dark here over on the other side of the planet. And there's that one satellite I was tracking. Some other things that you can do on here on your map view, scrolling back around, there we go, is I've got, I'm going to close that right now. I've got a couple of different views I can click. So this is my spherical view, I guess, but if I click this, I can do a flat view, like a 2D view that you'd be more used to. So again, you've got your dark areas and you've got what's light right now. So as I start this, let's get those going. I think I should be able to get this going. Maybe because I paused it before, but I'm going to go ahead and go back to home. If you hit the home button, you should get back to the, actually I got to hit the globe, I guess, hit the sphere. So there's the home. And let's zoom in. Let's rotate. Is this thing going at all? It's not letting me do anything now. I'm going to uncheck that. There we go. Now we got it. I had to uncheck the real time. So there we are. That was the thing. So I'm going to make this go a little faster. So if I hit this now and go to my flat 2D view, you can see you still see your satellites moving. So you can do the same things, just that you get this kind of view with your satellites. And here we go. We've got our line of satellites that are in the process of making their way up to their final destination in orbit, up to the 725 miles, 1,200 plus kilometers. What's interesting down here, I don't know what this is about. This, I guess maybe because it's a flat 2D view, you see this is probably them circling as they come over, or I should say under the planet, under the South Pole. You're seeing them take this kind of a detour. And again, they're all traveling in a straight line, in a sense, around a spherical object. So again, they're straight line, but when you have a sphere like that, things get kind of wonky. And you can see some making a turn up here, because again, they've got different kinds of orbits that they're making. And then there's another view that's, let me find that one down here. Oops, I'm clicking the wrong spot. Here we go. This one, Columbus view. Yeah, so that would be like your Columbus map. So the same kind of thing, just leans it down. And again, you get an idea in this kind of view that satellites are, even though they're going around the planet on this kind of a map, it looks kind of weird. So you can always go back, again, click here to your spherical view. And I think that's the most interesting one. So you can see here just where, that's why they call it a constellation, basically covering the planet. So you think about this. So this is 600 plus satellites. There's our little line of satellites that are still making their way up to where they belong. So you've got this. You've got, now these are all, except for these that are going to be, if they're lower right now, they may be making their way through kind of where Starlink is, if they're still heading on their way up. So you've got Starlink that's got 3,600. You've got Project Kuiper. I think they're approved for 6,000 plus satellites. They're in a similar kind of orbit, or going to be in a similar kind of orbit to Starlink, a little bit higher, I think 450, 470 miles, where Starlink is a little bit lower. So you think about all of those satellites that we're talking about here, and that is fairly substantial number of satellites that are up there. So this, of course, is a cause for concern for several different reasons. One, it doesn't take much to have serious orbital debris up in space. So if one of these things, a couple of things crash into each other, and then you've got debris that's flying around that then could interrupt other kinds of orbiting devices, satellites, rockets, or whatever that are going up there. So you've got that issue. Astronomers don't like it because it's blocking the sky. So if you're trying to do astronomy from Earth, And you've got all of these bright objects up there. They don't much care for that. I know Starlink tried to do some things with paint and some other kinds of coatings to make them less reflective, but you still have those kinds of issues with astronomy. So let's see, was there anything else in this map? So again, you can turn these things on and off. So see my ground stations. Right now you see they're not on, but I can click on any ground station. This is down in, looks like Lewiston, Florida. So again, I can click that on. I can see how this one, that's interesting, how this one's kind of flipping back and forth there to different satellites as they come over. Right now it's grabbing those. Anything else here? Let's see, I'll close that. That's pretty much it. And then if you ever get lost, you can click home and go back to your main view, take you back to there. And again, something that I just kind of figured out while I'm here. So if you want to see what's going on right now, where a satellite is, I'm going to click one. Should I get one? Oh. Let me pause. Click a satellite. There I go. So if I want to see where that is right now, let's see if I can hit this clock right here. So right now it's telling me that's lat 17.99, long 56.14. If I click the clock, yeah, so you see it changed. And now I'm real time. So I'm actually, this is as fast as they actually are moving. So you can see the lat changing. It's pretty much staying along the same longitude. It's going to be moving much slower as it changes longitude. It's going to change a little bit if it's, yeah, see there went to 0.46, because again, they're making a slight spiral as they go around the planet. They're not staying exactly in the same orbit, but you can see its altitude, the period, those kinds of things. Velocity, 26.079.5 kilometers per hour. So they're definitely moving pretty fast. And again, I'm going to go see if I can find find the ones that are on their way up. Where'd they go? Here they are. I think that's them. Oh, let's go this way. Here's some right here. So click on one of these. So this is real time. Again, these particular ones, you can see where they are. These are 27,000.5 kilometers per hour, but you can see altitude 453.2 kilometers high. But as we watch those numbers, 453.1 kilometers, and we see in real time, that's interesting because it went down 0.1. Let's see if it goes up again. 453, 452.9. So right now that one's pretty consistent. If I go ahead and uncheck that, just go in future here. So 158, I'm going much faster now, 158.29. So you can see these are going up, 158.30. So these are eventually going to be up at the 1,200 or so kilometers, or about 725 miles. So, all right, well, there you go. That is OneWeb, and OneWeb, again, I think will be less of a competitor than, to Starlink than Amazon Kuiper, because they are focusing on a wholesale market. And I think we'll be focusing heavy on these enterprise kinds of things, and maritime, airplanes. Again, Starlink wants to do that, but as they get partnerships with telecoms, some of that could be mobile backhaul that they're doing with these telecoms, but also, like this partnership in India. I don't think Starlink, Starlink can sell in India. They can sell directly to a consumer in India, but they would be competing with this telephone company in India that it sounds like it's going to be reselling the service to folks there. So Starlink does have Kuiper coming on soon, but this is one right now that's launched. And again, this is going to be taking some of their business on some of the commercial stuff that they want to do as well. So anyway, thanks for joining me. If this was interesting, it was for me. If you like rocket launches and satellites and those kinds of things, if you give me a like on the video, I'd appreciate it. If you are not subscribed, click the subscribe button, ring the little bell to be notified when I'm live. And I will be live tomorrow with broadband deployment news at some point during the day. I don't do that at 3 o'clock. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and make sure you click the subscribe button, click the bell to be notified, and that'll pop up when I'm live at that time. You can watch then, or you can watch later recorded, or if you're not interested, you don't have to watch, obviously. But thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.